I'm taking pictures of two of my succulents today, and they are kind of opposite each other in terms of how they've improved or not improved. So I'm going to start with this one, and let me find it really quick in the tracker app. Okay, so all of these, I'm taking pictures of these to keep a better photo history of my plants because, like with this one, so these actually look pretty similar even though this was months ago, but check out what it looks like when I first planted it. You can see how red and stressed it is. Now that's fine for Haworthias. It can happen that way where when they get stressed they turn red. I prefer these to look a little more green, but you can actually see the remnants of it here. So this one was underwatered and getting a ton of light. And then what caused it to shift like this is actually just giving it more water. So it got about the same amount of light, but it was getting a lot more frequent watering. And as you can see, it's maintained that color here, or it's maintained the green color for a while now. This one is a little bit more red, so I'm wondering if this one maybe is just more sensitive to the amount of light it's getting. But I'm going to go ahead and take a new picture of it. And then I realized as I was going through my plants the other day that I have a lot of them that are not labeled with the names. And part of that is because I like knowing the names, but generally speaking, I know what genus it is, and so I generally know roughly how to care for it, and I can kind of just look at it and tell what it needs. But it is also nice to actually have the names in there. So this one I happen to know is Haworthia turgida. Looks like oh, there you go, there's the picture. So I'm just going to apply the name for that one. So now that is in there. You can see the average watering is every 12 days. And I can always pull up that reference. So I recommend with this one watering about every 14 days. A lot of that, and just in general, watering recommendations should be taken with a grain of salt, because it will really depend on how much light it's getting, the temperatures, like if you're growing it inside or outside. So even just the size of pot that it's in will affect how often you're watering it too. So always take watering recommendations with a grain of salt, and do what you feel like is best for your succulent. Okay, so now the next one that we're going to look at is this Little Warty. Let me grab it really quick. So this one has actually kind of had a bit of an opposite transformation as the other one. It's in this tiny pot. I bought this handmade pot from an artist, and I just thought it was so cute. And I planted at the time what was a very little Gasteria Little Warty in it. But as you can see, this has gotten quite large, and it really needs to be repotted. It got a little bit of a sunburn there. I think that might have been actually when I was transitioning it from not getting a lot of light back into getting a little bit more light. But these are just very dry and leathery. These leaves are always leathery, but I can tell just from the lack of shine that it's not doing great right here. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So if we come back and look at the photo history, this is about 7 months ago. You can see it was really nice and green, and see how it's like more glossy, whereas these look very dull. So it's a little bit underwatered, but part of that is just it's a little too root bound right now. And then here's another view of it. Those are taken about a year apart. And then at least when I first put it into the app, very green, very glossy, and just vibrant. So I am going to repot this at some point, but for now I'm just coming in again today to take a picture to add to that photo history. And it's going to be hard to get. Sorry, that was not attractive for you on the camera, I'm sure. So trying to get this in. Okay, this is not going to work. I'm going to pause for a second and take a better picture. Okay, now that we've got a little bit better photo here, still not amazing, and obviously if I took nicer photos of these, it would probably be easier to see the shift with them, but my goal is just to keep a history and not over stress about it. But Let's go back. So this one, the average watering is every 15 days. Now, part of that is because this is in a non-draining pot. So let me see if I can flip this over. So you can see there's no drainage hole in there. And it's because it wasn't designed to be a pot, but I just thought it was so cute. So plant it in there. And all things considered, it's done pretty well. Like I said, it does need a new pot. And I think in a new pot and with a little bit more frequent watering, I think it will perk back up, very similar to how this Haworthia has perked back up and gone back to more of a green color instead of more of the stressed red color. I love all the little babies in here. I don't know if you can see how many there are, and realizing my light's not great, but there's so many back in there. So this one, I'm gonna let all of these keep growing for a little while longer and wait for these babies to get bigger. And once it's kind of filled in the pot a little bit more, that's when I'll separate them. Because especially with that tiny one back there, it's not going to transplant super well. Although it might be attached to the mother plant enough I could do it. But I'm gonna wait till these get a little bit bigger, and then those will be repotted as well. But just know that these have been cared for roughly the same way, but obviously in very different pots. And so that will really affect how your plant looks over time. And then just the watering frequency, even something as subtle as these being average of 12 days, this being an average of 15, can make a really big difference in how your succulents look over time.